49-27, Ohio State. In a weird game against Rutgers. We'll get into it. Old Greg Schiano. Man, that boy came out swinging, didn't he? Pulled out all the stops. The guy pulled every rabbit out of his hat, every trick possible, kept this thing interesting. Kudos to them, never giving up. The score, kind of a little misleading. I know watching the game, if you're an Ohio State fan, with the talent that this team has and the expectations of this team, you expect, a 70-7 like game for something like that. For this type of matchup, it just didn't go that way, but it was 49-9 going into the fourth quarter, so I don't really read too much into that. I know Ryan Day said after the game it wasn't an excuse, but it's late Saturday night. It's 49-9, and there's no one in the stands. It's just really hard to get juiced up for something like that, which I do agree with, and it's going to be a problem all year long with finding ways to get yourself juiced up, jacked up, ready to play, ready to go out and compete no matter what the score is. But that sure wasn't the case for Rutgers. And, you could easily say for a team that was down, 40 points almost, that they could have thrown in the towel. They could have just packed it in and said, it is what it is. Let's just take our lickings and get out of here. But no, they outscored Ohio State in the second half. They dominated in yards in the second half. And they did everything they can to just keep playing. And that's definitely a hat tip to them for sure. So I'm very impressed already with what Schiano has done with them just to instill that type of mentality that no matter what, we're still going to fight. On the Ohio State side of things, the concerning things for me were the interior line. Harry Miller, Josh Myers. Not so much Wyatt, but those two guys got whipped all night. All night. I know Ryan Day likes to run that stretch play, under center, single back, and that requires your interior line, just your line in general, to get a quick first step, because you have to step out in front of your block. You got to get out there and go, and you got to step one way. You got to beat your man to that spot. And continuously all night last night, Josh Myers, Harry Miller were getting beat to that spot. Kudos to the two Rutgers D linemen. I know one's a Michigan transfer. I can't remember where the other one came from. I apologize, but those two played their asses off. So hat tip to those guys. Those guys were great. And the holding calls, you hold when you get beat. And Harry Miller got beat quite a bit. So I don't know if that's a combination of playing down to your competition. They didn't look very good against Nebraska, but then they played lights out against Penn State. And then you come back against a team like Rutgers and you lay kind of an egg. So not really a good pattern you like to see, but it's definitely things you can clean up. And I do expect him to do that. There's way too many veteran guys on that line not to pick Harry up or have Josh come out better. I expect Josh to bounce back for sure, but there's way too many veterans on that line to not let Harry get down on himself. So I do expect them to bounce back. What else can you say about Justin Fields? I say this every week, I feel like. What else can you say about the guy? He's incredible. Still more touchdowns than in completions, I believe, but he just has so much command, so much skill. Even when the linemen were getting beat, he was making that first or second guy miss to even give himself an opportunity to complete a pass. I mean, he's just downright incredible. That last touchdown to Chris Olave was just a rifle, just on a rope, 40 yards. Didn't look like he had room to squeeze that in there, and just an absolute rope. He had another dime to Garrett Fields in the back of the end zone, rolling to his left, and then fading back, dropping it in there. Just impressive throw after impressive throw from him. The naked boot to the right, throwing it to Olave late in the back of the end zone there too. It looked a little late, but I think he was just waiting for him to come open, just waiting for him to create that space to the corner of the end zone. But again, just drops it in there. And I think Ryan Day's trying to work out some kinks, especially in that run game. I mean, very easily they could have ran 4 or 5 wide and Justin could have threw for 500 yards. But, he wants that balance. You got to create that balance for when you get to these better teams. And I think it's pretty clear that they have a running back problem. I'm going to flat out say it. They have 3 good backs. They don't have a great back. And I know they played well. They ran well against Penn State. But it's starting to look like Penn State may not be very good. That also could be a testament to them just giving up on the season, which I think they may have. They figured, hey, we're 0-2. Let's just pack it in, kind of. So I think, they still ran for over 200 yards. And, that's me just we're still nitpicking, But when you talk about this team, we're not talking about what you need to do to win the Big Ten. And yes, I'll get to Maryland. We'll talk about Maryland. We'll definitely talk about Maryland next week, But Indiana, Michigan, there's still some, games on the schedule that kind of raise your antennas. But when you talk about this team, you're talking about what can they do in the playoffs. How do they take that step to get to a national championship, to win a national championship? And when you play teams like Clemson, Alabama, Notre Dame, Florida, you have to have balance. And I think that's what Ryan Day's trying to strive for. They still had over 5 yards carry, and that's with a lot of tackles for loss. Rutgers had a lot of tackles for loss. So I am being a little nitpicky. They just don't have that dynamic back. I honestly thought Trey Sermon was going to be a lot more explosive this year. I thought, watching some of his tape at Oklahoma, I thought he was a very explosive back. And that's just, I don't know if he's still kind of, coming off that injury. I know he had a knee issue, leaving Oklahoma, but, is that still lingering? Because it doesn't look like the burst is there or back yet. Master Teague is, see the hole, hit the hole. He's not going to be a guy that's going to make a guy miss. He's going to run through you, maybe fall forward, get you an extra yard here and there, but he's not going to be taking, a 2-yard gain until a 80-yard gain by making a few guys miss, And, I really thought Steel Chambers would kind of be that guy. There was a lot of opportunity there. It looked like he had that chance. Master and Sermon, they didn't really take over. They haven't taken over. So it was kind of there for Steele to maybe get in there and get some good reps. But he puts the ball on the ground. He puts the ball on the ground. I know people were saying, he put the ball on the ground twice. That fake punt, he hit the ground. The ball, the ground caused the ball to come out. So I don't hold that one against him. But it's clear that he has a ball security issue. You're hearing stuff in practice that was an issue there. So right now, they don't have somebody that's going to take over the reins. You look at these top teams and they have a guy. Bama has Najee Harris. Clemson has Travis Etienne. Who's going to be that workhorse? I've never been a proponent of running back by committee, and I still don't. It didn't work in 2018 with Dobbins and Weber, and it's not really kind of working this year. And I know we're 3 weeks into the season, and it's still kind of early, but it's definitely a little cause for concern. And I want people to understand, I'm still like just nitpicking, but we're nitpicking a national title contending team, and that's what you have to do. You have to be critical. That's what Ryan Day said. Like, we're chasing perfection. You're not going to get there, but you got to be critical. We're going to be critical about ourselves, and that's what you got to be right now. It's nice to see McCall get in there and kind of shake up some things, but all in all, it's a very weird game. Glad it's over. Ohio State was up 49-9 going into the fourth, so read into it what you will. The Rutgers game. Rutgers pulled out every single trick known to man. So it was crazy. But take it for what it is. I'm glad it's over. Maryland's next. That should be an interesting one. I know I didn't get into the secondary, but the depth is a concern. Tyreek Johnson. Yeah. I want to be respectful to the young man, but they have concerns. They have concerns in that area. So losing Cam Brown, the depth is a concern. Past, 7, Marcus Williamson and Shaun Wade. It's like, where do you go? Where do you go from there? And, when you play teams that have more athletes on the field and spread you out more, that's what you're going to rely on. So we'll see how that progresses. Maryland should be some fireworks. Very impressed with what they've done the last 2 weeks. And it was kind of similar to what they'd done last year when they opened up the season. Just blowing out everybody. And then they lost like 3 or 4 straight. So Maryland's a really hard team to gauge. It's going to be interesting. I think Ohio State's already a 4-touchdown favorite. I think that's what it opened up at. They're going to do what they can to get things to score with Ohio State. So it should be interesting to see. And we'll get a little more into it next week. So the picks, the fundamental five, everybody, went 4-1. Ugh. I'll take it. 4-1. If I give you 5 picks, I go 4-1 all year. Cut me the check. Start cutting me checks now. But Clemson, the Clemson line, -6.5, had the touchdown lead with a minute to go. Let Notre Dame get that, which was a great game. But let Notre Dame go down and get in the end zone and tie it up. So just missed out on that one, but it was a fun weekend. Glad we can move on from Rutgers, that weird, wacky game, and move on to Maryland. So the best thing about being 3-0, chance to go 4-0. You guys know that. So I will see you all on Friday. Later.